Hey kids, how are you? I'm glad that you have stuck it out with me this month as we've learned how to not give up. Actually, it's not just to not give up, but refuse to give up. When life gets tough, you choose to keep holding on no matter what. And that's what having grit is all about. Grit is just refusing to give up when life gets hard. Now look, I can tell you've all become experts at showing grit, but I wonder, have you also become experts in mountain climbing? I mean, we've played some fun climbing games this month that have helped us practice holding on, and we've learned about climbing gear. We've guessed some fun climbing trivia facts. We've untangled climbing ropes, and we've practiced our hanging on skills. But now I want you to get on your feet, because this song is a fun way that we can tell Jesus that we trust Him. No matter what's going on in your life, you can have peace when you remember that Jesus is there with you and that He is in control. So let's give Him our trust as we sing this song to Him in praise.
Before the day I took a breath, you had a plan for my every step. You promised to always be by my side. I believe that you are the way, you are the truth, you are the light. So I sing this to you. You keep your promises every day. I will believe in everything that you say. Yeah, in the dark I know you're making a way. Jesus, I will trust you. You're always good at everything that you do, and I know everything that you say is true. And every moment you are leading me through. Jesus, I will trust you. I wanna be honest and true and do what's right the way you do. You're teaching me to take a stand and live for you, 'cause I believe that you are the way, you are the truth, you are the light. So I sing this to you. You keep your promises every day. I will believe in everything that you say. Yeah, in the dark I know you're making a way. Jesus, I will trust you. You're always good at everything that you do, and I know everything that you say is true. And every moment you are leading me through. Jesus, I will trust you. Even in the moments I feel alone, I know I can trust that you're working and holding my world in your hands. Even in the moments I feel alone, I know I can trust that you're working and holding my world in your hands. You are the way, you are the truth, you are the life. So I sing this to you. You keep your promises every day. I will believe in everything that you say. Yeah, in the dark I know you're making a way. Jesus, I will trust you. You're always good at everything that you do, and I know everything that you say is true. And every moment you are leading me through. Jesus, I will trust you.
All right, great job singing that song. Well, let's bow our heads for a word of prayer, all right? Lord Jesus, we thank you for the day. We thank you for loving us and saving us and allowing us this incredible opportunity to meet here online with these amazing boys and girls. And today, God, I confess to you my need for you to help us as we try to wrap up this series, learning about grit, how to hold on, and Lord, how to just trust you no matter what we're facing, and how to have that grit to just keep going on no matter how hard life gets. So I pray that you'll help us and give us the words to clearly communicate to the kids this important lesson as we wrap up talking about Moses and talking about the Israelites and what a key lesson it is today. So I pray that you'll help them to listen, and not just listen enough to be able to answer a few questions at the end, but listen well enough to know how this actually looks in their life and how this might live out in their life this week. And God, those are big words right now, but Lord, give them understanding to really let this just marinate in their hearts and in their souls and in their minds, and they just dwell on it, and then it starts to play out in their heart and their life throughout the days to come. So God, we ask all these things in your name. Amen. You know, kids, in Psalm chapter 86 and verse 87, David wrote these words as a prayer. He said, Lord, teach me how you want me to live. Do this so that I'll depend on you, my faithful God, and give me a heart that doesn't want to do anything more than to worship you. You know what? We can worship God when things are going great and when things are tough. And we can depend on God no matter what's going on in our lives. So let's choose right now to worship God together as we sing this last song together. And right at the end of the song, we've got a fun little video game for you, and then we'll dive into the lesson, all right? Here we go.
My strength, my song, this cornerstone.
Oh, hey! Glad you're here. I've been testing out the old leaf blower. Apparently I forgot to close the front door. Now the leaves that were in the yard are in my house. Think you could give me a hand? Huh? I'll start blowing these leaves away, and you try to figure out what's underneath. When you think you know what's there, just stand up and shout it out. We gotta move fast, though. Let's just say this isn't the first time I've filled our house with leaves, and I really don't want to lose my leaf blower privileges again. All right. Can you tell what this is? Oh, it's my dog! Oh, sorry, Sprinkles. Didn't mean for that to happen again. Let's move over here. What is that? Oh, it's my paint supplies! Oh, hey, do you guys know what's blue but smells exactly like red paint? Blue paint! Oh, wow! Okay, let's move some more leaves. What is it we're looking at here? Oh, it's my chinchilla, Mr. Puff. Hey, buddy, we've got to get you back in your cage. Let's just say Sprinkles and Mr. Puff do not get along. Okay, let's look over here. Oh, can you tell what this is? Oh, it's my bunny slippers! Oh, so fluffy, so warm! Definitely glad we found those. Let's clear out some more leaves. What's under this pile of leaves? It's my barbells! AKA the Beastmakers! Hey, don't laugh! I'm just on level 1 of my new workout program. Burger body, bye-bye. Anyway, I think we've got some more leaves to clear out. Can you tell what's under these leaves? Oh, it's a basket of yarn? Ooh, that looks just like my Mima's sewing basket. But she lives on the other side of town. Oh, this leaf blower must be stronger than I thought. Okay, just a few more piles to go. What is under all these leaves? Oh, it's my cinnamon roll! I was so excited to break out this leaf blower I forgot to eat breakfast! Oh. Well, I guess it's gonna have to be a lunch cinnamon roll now! All right, we've got just one more pile of leaves to go. What is under these leaves? Oh, it's my grandma! Hey, Mima! Sorry about that. Didn't know you were here. Guess that explains the yarn? Wow! I'm glad you guys were here to help me out. Thanks for helping me clean up all these leaves and for finding Mima.
Okay, we've come to the last week of the month on grit, and as we've continued through God's big story, we've learned a lot from our friend Joseph and Moses about never giving up. Well, today we'll pick up the story to see what happened next with Moses. But first, let's kind of look back at where we've already been, okay? So the Bible starts with God creating a good world. But when Adam and Eve broke God's rule, they broke their relationship with God. Goodness became really hard to find. But God had a plan to make things right again. See, God promised to bless the world through the family of Abraham and Sarah, the Israelites. But for hundreds of years, the Israelites were enslaved in Egypt. They cried out to God. They begged God to help them. And God did help them by sending a man named Moses to lead them to freedom. Now remember, just a sidebar note, kids, there's a whole lot of things that happen in between some of what we're teaching you guys, okay? We're giving you the highlights of some of these stories. So mom and dad, if you're watching with them, you can cover some of the details in between. We're just trying to cover some of the highlights, okay? So back to the lesson. Moses and his brother Aaron, well, they went toe to toe with the Egyptian Pharaoh to demand that he set the Israelites free. Now at first, the Pharaoh refused. But after a lot of really terrible plagues, he reluctantly agreed to let God's people go. Now the Israelites were finally free and finally on their way out of Egypt. But they weren't safe yet. They were still on the run. Of course, the Israelites had to travel slowly since there were so many people of all ages, small children and elderly people, as well as flocks and herds of animals. As the Israelites traveled out of Egypt, God led them every step of the way. I mean, God literally was there to lead them. Check this out from the book of Exodus. This is in Exodus chapter 13, verse 21. It's so awesome. It says, "By day, the Lord went ahead of them in a pillar of cloud. It guided them on their way. At night, he led them with a pillar of fire. It gave them light, so they could travel by day or at night." Can you imagine how amazing that would be? Well, eventually, God led them to the Red Sea. This was a large body of water that separated them from a desert road that would lead them to the land of Canaan. That's where Jacob and Joseph and their family lived way back when. And God was leading them to the land of their ancestors. Unfortunately, dun dun dun, back at the palace, the Pharaoh was having second thoughts about letting the Israelites go. But he was probably thinking, who's going to do all this work if they leave? I think I hear the Pharaoh and his army now. Yeah. Okay, here it is. Pharaoh and his army. Yeah, they came chasing after the Israelites now. The Israelites were in real trouble. They had the Red Sea on one side of them and the Egyptian army on the other. The Israelites could see Pharaoh's army in the distance behind chasing after them, and they knew there was no way they could outrun Pharaoh's chariots and horses. So the Israelites did something that unfortunately they did a lot. They began to complain. They said to Moses in Exodus 14, verses 11 and 12, "Why did you bring us to the desert to die? It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die here in the desert." But Moses had an amazing response. He said, "Don't be afraid. Stand firm. You'll see how the Lord will save you today. Do you see those Egyptians? You'll never see them again. The Lord will fight for you. Just be still." Wow. Isn't that amazing? Don't be afraid. Stand firm. See, Moses, he wanted to remind the people that God, who had just set them free, would help them now as well. So God then spoke to Moses. God told Moses, hold out his walking stick over the sea. Remember that stick? When he threw it down, it turned into a snake, and then when he picked up the snake, it turned back into a stick? Yeah, Moses was still carrying that thing around. So now he took this stick, and when he did, and he threw it or held it out over the sea, guess what? The waters would divide, and the Israelites would be able to walk through the sea on dry ground. And the pillar of cloud then moved to the back of the Israelites, and it stayed there all night to block the Israelites from the Egyptians. So Moses then did as God said, and wow, the waters divided. All through the night, God sent a mighty wind to push back the waters of the Red Sea on either side, and the Israelites walked through on dry land. Can you imagine how cool that must have been to walk through a sea and see this wall of water over here and a wall of water over there? I don't know if you could see fish kind of swimming here and here. I don't know if they would poke their head out the water and look at you with fish faces. I don't know if I would have been tempted to kind of stick my hand in and try to pet one of them, or I don't know if they did that or not. Some of them might have been scared, but they were walking through on dry ground. How cool is that? But the Egyptians, they wouldn't give up. They chased the Israelites into the Red Sea. And once all the Israelites had made it through to the other side of the sea, God told Moses, reach out his staff again. And the water rushed back into the place over the Egyptians. All of their chariots and horsemen were washed away. God had saved the Israelites. They had made it safely to the other side of the Red Sea. And this next part is really cool. The Israelites were so happy that they sang a song about what happened, which we can find in Exodus chapter 15, verses 1 and 2. Here's what they sang. I will sing to the Lord. He is greatly honored. The Lord gives me strength and protects me. He has saved me. The Israelites could see that God always had been in control, and that God was still in control. God was watching over them and leading them to freedom. You know, it's important for us to remember that God is in control, especially when we face things in life that are scary or don't make sense. See, life is full of ups and downs, but we can trust that God always has a good plan, even if we can't see it. So let's remember this. Hold on, because God, He's still in control. Check out today's Story Lab video.
Welcome to Story Lab. This week, we're talking about grit, while we take a look at the story of a group of people who were stuck between an army and, well, the deep Red Sea. Oh, and we're also going to be doing this. Hey, I'm Skylar.
And I'm Sebastian.
We're talking about grit, which is refusing to give up when life gets hard.
Or refusing to get grouchy when every day for a whole week is cloudy.
I like cloudy days.
Really?
They're good for thinking and reading.
And hot chocolate.
There's actually a Cloud Appreciation Society.
For reals? Wow, there really is. You should see the stuff they have posted.
That's a lenticular cloud. They often form over mountains or even tall buildings.
Looks like a pancake. I should have had breakfast this morning.
Check this out. These cloud rolls are called morning glories. They show up when a downdraft from an advancing storm causes moist, warm air to rise and cool fast.
Looks like cloud twizzlers.
Here's another one.
What?
Mammatus clouds. They can form when ice crystals fall out of cumulonimbus storm clouds.
I'm pretty sure that's a set of a Marvel movie. I've changed my mind. I think every day should be a cloudy day.
Good, because we're about to make our own cloud right now.
Yes! Let's make it!
Step 1, find a large glass jar.
Done.
Step 2, fill a cup with ice cubes.
So far, so good.
Next, you're gonna want to take the lid off of your jar. And step 3, boil some water. And then pour it in the jar. Make sure you get a grown-up to help. And once you have a fair amount, carefully swirl it to warm up the sides.
It's hot.
Yes, it is. Next, turn the lid upside down and fill it with ice cubes. Then you're gonna let it wait for 20 seconds.
What are we supposed to do for 20 seconds?
This next part has to be fast. Step 6. What's gonna happen is you're going to remove the lid, pump hairspray into the jar, and then immediately put the lid back over it. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Can you do it?
I can do it.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
I can see it brewing.
Release the cloud.
Oh, that's so cool. Bring on the cloudy days.
Good, because there's a ginormous pillar of cloud in today's story.
It's time for
The story before the story.
Today, we're in the second book of the Old Testament, Exodus.
God made a plan to bless the whole world through one family, the Israelites. But for hundreds of years, the Israelites had been enslaved in Egypt.
They cried out to God for help, and God sent a man named Moses who faced down the king, Pharaoh. After a lot of crazy plagues, Pharaoh let the Israelites go.
But even though the Israelites were free, they're not yet safe.
And that's where our story starts.
Hey everyone! Okay, so as we all know, the Israelites were all packed up. Thousands and thousands of people, families, kids, herds, and flocks. You can imagine, they couldn't move very fast. God was leading them every step of the way, away from Egypt, appearing in a pillar of cloud during the daytime and a blazing pillar of flame at night. At last, the Israelites came to the Red Sea, which stood between them and the desert road to Canaan. But while the Israelites set up camp along the shore of the Red Sea, back in the palace, Pharaoh was having serious second thoughts.
What have we done? We've lost all our workers. Prepare 600 chariots at once.
Pharaoh jumped in his chariot and led an army of chariots and horsemen racing across the desert after the Israelites. The galloping horses and rattling chariots kicked up clouds of dust, and soon the Israelites could see them coming. There was no way they could outrun the Egyptian army. The Israelites were trapped.
Why did you bring us out in the desert to die?
It would have been better to stay in Egypt than die out here.
The Israelites wanted to give up, but Moses kept his eyes fixed firmly on God.
Don't be afraid. Stand firm. The Lord will save you today. The Lord will fight for you. Just be still.
Right there, in a place that seemed like a trap, God spoke to Moses.
Hold out your walking stick. Reach out your hand over the Red Sea to divide the water.
Divide the water? Okay, that is not what water does. But God's presence in the pillar of cloud moved from the front of the Israelite caravan and stood behind them all night to block them from view of the Egyptians. Moses reached his hand over the sea. Through the night, God sent a strong wind to push back the waters. Soon, the Israelites faced a dry path right through the middle of the Red Sea. I mean, can you imagine what it must have felt like? You're at the edge of a vast sea, but straight ahead the water just boop, splits. I mean, ginormous walls of water rise up on either side of the path before you. Sure, I mean, you want to escape the Egyptians, but if you walk along this path, the waters could fall on you. I mean, it must have taken every ounce of courage and grit they had. But the Israelites followed Moses along that path, straight through the heart of the sea. All night, those families hurried toward freedom. But the Egyptians gave chase. They followed the Israelites right into the Red Sea. At last, the Israelites made it through. But the Egyptians were right behind them. God spoke to Moses again.
Reach out your hand over the sea.
As Moses reached out his hand, those walls of water began to crash down, and the sea rushed back into place, washing over the Egyptian horses and chariots. The entire Egyptian army was swept away. The Israelites were left safe and dry on the far side of the Red Sea. Moses' sister Miriam led them in a song of celebration.
I will sing to the Lord, he is greatly honored. The Lord gives me strength and protects me. He has saved me.
The end.
Whoa, things must have felt so out of control for Moses and the Israelites.
Oh, for sure. But God was in control the whole time. God opened up a way for them to just keep going.
So, what's our part in the story?
Well, there are some times when you feel stuck, right? Like maybe one particular subject at school is super hard for you and you feel like it'll never get easier. Keep going. Because God knows what you're facing. God will walk with you the whole way through.
Or you're just starting in a new school and you haven't been able to make friends just yet. Don't give up. God can help you find friends when you least expect it.
And best of all, God gave us Jesus to show what it looks like to keep going.
Exactly. I mean, Jesus didn't give up loving us, even though it cost him his life. And when we follow Jesus, we have the power of the Holy Spirit to keep going too.
That is amazing news.
Isn't it? All right, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye, Erica. So here's the thing. Hold on, because God is still in control. Knowing that can help you grow grit.
And God makes some pretty incredible clouds.
Is that a dog?
That's definitely a werewolf howling.
Thanks for joining us in the Story Lab. See you next time.
I think that one's Winnie the Pooh.
Wow. Just wow. Imagine how it felt for Moses and the Israelites when they had finally been set free, only to be chased down again by Pharaoh. It must have been pretty scary for them to be trapped between the Red Sea and the Egyptian army. But God was still in control and still taking care of them. God protected them and guided them through the Red Sea, and God saved them and helped them keep going. You know, in God's big story here, the whole timeline, today as we see Moses and the children of Israel crossing the Red Sea, let's remember that God is in control of our lives as well. That'll help us have grit and hold on when we go through tough times. So remember today's bottom line. Hold on because God is still in control. Think about that the next time something goes wrong or the next time something happens that you don't expect. I mean, sometimes life can feel like a video game, like you've played the same level over and over, but you're stuck and you can't get past it. Maybe you've practiced your spelling words over and over, but you just can't remember when I is not before E and the exceptions to the rule. Or maybe you made a mistake and left your red jersey in with all the white laundry and now everything is pink. Hey, mistakes happen. Spelling is hard, really hard, and sometimes life takes you by surprise in the worst way and you're not sure how to fix what's wrong. The important thing is that you don't give up. You have the grit to keep going because you know that you can trust God no matter what. You believe that God is in control and you can keep going. Remember, we can always think about Jesus. Jesus showed the perfect example of grit. He kept going and did what he had come here to do all the way to the cross. And today we have the Holy Spirit to help us keep going just like Jesus did. And he even left us an incredible verse to help us remember. Yep, Galatians 6:9. Come on, let's say it together. By now you should know this. Let us not become tired of doing good. At the right time, we will gather a crop if we don't give up. Galatians 6:9, nerve. All right, well listen kids, that's all the time we've got for today. But you better check in with us next week because we've got an amazing new series that we're kicking off next week. It is called Stand, and we are going to be learning about courage, being brave enough to do what you should do, even when you're afraid. And I can't wait to dive into this with you guys. But for right now, right hand up in the air, high five. I'll see you soon. Have a great week.